Welcome to another presentation from the CV Academics Foundation, home of the AMP Honors Program.
I'm Alexis and I am a super mentor here at AMP. So I am recruiting our friendly neighborhood Doctor of Physical Therapy student, Abby, for this session of Ask a Super Mentor. So Abby, I'm curious, we lived together all 4 years of undergrad and, out of all of our roommates, you and I were usually the ones that were in the science building till like 2 a.m. on arguably most nights.
Way too late.
Yeah, way too late. So I'm kind of curious, now that we've gone on to our respective professional schools, what does your self-care look like now? And how does it differ, or maybe not differ, from your undergrad self-care methods?
Yeah, I think it's interesting thinking back because it's definitely very different than what I did then. I think then I scheduled a lot more. And I think I had to because, we were roommates and friends with people from a whole bunch of different specialties or degrees, I guess, as we called them back then. But like one of our roommates was an education major, there's a psychology major, you were a physics major, as a biology major. So like we all had different things going on at different times. So if we all wanted to do something together, we had to like schedule that in. Whereas now I am friends with people who are all in the same cohort as me, and we all have tests at the same time and lab practicals at the same time. So we just kind of all have time off together and all are cramming at the same time. I shouldn't say cramming, we don't do that in grad school, but yeah, so it kind of just comes a little bit more naturally in grad school.
Yeah, I think that's, really interesting to think about, because you're right. Yeah, I always thought our household was kind of cool, like with that, because we did have such a diverse range of majors. I think majors was the word that you were looking for. That's
yeah,
what
I think it was. You're right.
Really felt the word specialties there, though.
I know.
But yeah, and it's interesting that you said that you felt like things were a lot more impromptu now, because I guess I don't know if it's because I started med school with COVID. COVID actually started before I started med school. So I'm home a lot more than I think I would have been had there not been COVID with med school. So I actually feel like personally, I schedule self-care a lot more now than I did in undergrad. So it's kind of interesting that we're flipped that way. But
yeah, and I think the COVID part is really interesting to think about too, because before COVID started, we would do things as a cohort. We would do float trips down a river, or we did paintballing and bowling and everything like that. So, my free time was pretty booked because we did all these things together. Whereas once COVID started, you'd have a day full of Zoom classes, and then you would do some homework, and then, you just kind of hang out and do your thing. There's not a whole lot of like planning to be done with friends. So you can kind of arrange your day how you want it and say like, okay, from this time to this time, I'm going to do school, and then I'm going to take an hour and I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to work on this project that I've been wanting to work on, or watch an hour of Netflix, really whatever you want to do. So you can kind of arrange your day how you want it, which in some cases is really nice. The COVID part is a bummer.
The COVID is a bummer. Yeah, no, I totally get that, because I guess one of the things I personally implemented during med school that I 100% did not do during undergrad was implement like a bedtime at the end of the night, and not only a bedtime, but like a cutoff studying time, so that I have an hour to unwind before I actually want to, try and sleep. Unlike undergrad, where I would be like studying and then try to go straight to sleep and then wonder why I couldn't fall asleep. It's because my brain wasn't off yet. I didn't turn it off. So I guess, that's an interesting thing too, right? Because like undergrad, I always had labs to do, I had assignments to do, projects, things with deadlines. But with medical school and probably PT school too, you can always be studying more. There's always more studying you can do, but at like some point, you got to cut it off, right?
Yeah. You just have to trust that you know what you know.
Mhm.
Right. And I think you hit on something really important there that I didn't think about until recently as self-care is a good sleep routine. I always thought self-care was like taking time for yourself and working out, working on your physical health and your emotional health, but like you can't do any of that without good sleep. So for me, that means having a bedtime because I'm not a morning person, but PT school first semester started at 7 in the morning. So like if I wanted to be ready at 7 in the morning, I had to go to bed pretty early, which a lot of people laughed at. But that's what I needed to do to take care of myself, to say, okay, 9 o'clock, I need to be getting ready for bed so that by 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm in bed so I can be ready for the next day. Because if I don't do that, then the next day I'm not working out, I'm not eating healthily, I'm not taking time away from school to take care of myself because I'm struggling to just focus on school, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And people throughout undergrad, always said that an extra hour of sleep is sometimes better than an extra hour of studying. But I will fully admit, like, I didn't follow that.
I did not believe that.
No, but definitely seeing that now. Definitely seeing where that's very true now. It definitely makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. I think a difference too between undergrad and grad school is in undergrad, you had classes at like random times of the day. You sometimes had these awkward breaks between classes. But in grad school, there's like, it's more like a job. You know, you go class to class to class to lunch to class, and then you have your time the rest of the day. So it is a little bit different where like you do have the ability to schedule your own time in the afternoons, you know, like, okay, I get off of class, I go home, I eat, then I do some school, then I go work out. And then, you know, you can kind of give yourself a little bit more normality and bring self-care into that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally does. I never even thought about that. Because like the semesters that in undergrad, I was the most productive and had, the best like by 11 p.m. bedtime were the semesters that all of my classes were in a solid block.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know about you, but like when I had like the checkerboard schedule of like you're on for an hour, you're off for an hour, you're on for an hour, you're off for an hour, I like went into this like waiting mode in that hour in between classes where I felt
Yeah.
like I couldn't start anything, which is like kind of silly because it's a whole hour, but it never felt like enough. Like,
Right. Well, you always had to pack your stuff and then find a place to study and then unpack your stuff. And then by then you have about a half an hour before you have to pack your stuff back up and then go study. So yeah, it really did feel like just kind of a waiting time, which in all reality is time wasted that you could be doing literally anything, whether it be studying or taking a walk around campus, you know, drop your bag off somewhere safe and go take a walk and, you know, get some fresh air and use that as your self-care time.
so I guess, some main takeaways here. Um, Maximize your schedule the best you can so you can have time for self-care. And it's sounding like to me what we've both come to realize, despite, a bunch of people telling us we kind of found it on our own, which I guess is good, is that routines help. Routines are important. So I guess any advice to our students looking to establish a routine or, maybe things that we wish we did in undergrad?
Yeah, especially in undergrad, think about what time of day you're most productive and try to schedule yourself around that. So I'm most productive in the afternoons. So if I could have scheduled classes in the late morning to early afternoon and then had a good block of time to study after that, that would have been perfect for me. And then get sleep. Just get sleep. You need it, whether that be, you know, taking an hour-long nap in the afternoon because that's what your body's telling you to do, or going to bed at a certain time because that's what your body needs. It's really going to optimize that time throughout the next day. Maybe if we had slept more, we wouldn't have used those hour blocks as waiting periods. We would have actually been productive. Who knows?
True, or taking naps in the physics teaching assistant room on the couch in between classes.
Exactly. You could use that time to sleep.
There we go. All right. Well, thanks so much, Abby, for spending this time with me, just reminiscing about our undergrad days together. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a great time. Thanks for having me.
This has been a presentation of the CV Academics Foundation, home of the AMP Honors Program.